I have been at Neighbor Care for 21 years, and this is going on, I believe, my 18th school year.
So there have been so many instances where having the school-based health center here on site at Chiefs Health has expedited care that I think kids may have not gotten as quickly if they had not been here. I think of one kid in particular that had really bad eczema. He was having a really hard time getting into dermatology, getting what he needed. He was coming to see me regularly, super uncomfortable. Was able to have a conversation with his parents and get paperwork and get him registered. And then Lisa was able to see him and has spent since then a lot of time supporting this kid. I think just starting out with these kids, they're high schoolers, but we're helping them establish trust with the healthcare system, which I think is huge.
One of the things that we do know is that it's really hard to have a chronic illness at this age, and so that is something that we are able to support the kid actually through mental health care. And so very often we'll also refer young people who are dealing with these chronic conditions and the various struggles that go along with them to our therapists so that they can have more to talk about, learn more skills to manage these frustrations and just the overall, just unfairness of having a chronic illness when you're 16.
The Morrison Hotel is a 190-unit permanent supported housing project operated by DESC. And the people who live here are, almost all of them have experienced chronic homelessness. So for many of the people who come to live here, the apartment represents sort of the first stable housing situation that they may have had for most of their adult life. And with that comes a whole set of complicated challenges, and many of them are medical related. People who suffer from, severe and persistent psychiatric disorders and are marginalized in a host of other ways, accessing healthcare can be absolutely impossible. One of the most thrilling things I can see on a regular basis in the Morrison is to see Tess or Lizzie upstairs rolling around with all their gear, knocking on doors, and I think to myself, just that is so heartwarming. That's an unbelievable thing.
We're knocking on doors, outreaching some of those same people, maybe running into people at the lobby as they're eating lunch down here. Hey, could we go ahead and check your blood sugar right after lunch? Did you have questions about that new medication you're self-injecting? Do you want to come do it in the office? No? You want to do it in the hallway right outside your room while the nurse is watching you? Okay, well, if that's what we're going to do today, that's what we're going to do. I love getting to build trust with people, the residents here who have had a really challenging time building trust with any healthcare providers.
There's very few types of care that are actually in people's homes, really creating that kind of relationship with people. And to be out there kind of outside or in someone's apartment doing wound care, kneeling on the floor, is an experience that I think in some ways, as you say, the future of what homelessness and housing healthcare should be. In some ways, I think it's also what a lot of us deserve to have in our day-to-day life.
Middle school is such a time of confusion and transition and new challenges, and I like to be a softer landing place for some of those, and being directly in that space is the number one thing that allows that to happen.
I got into this work because I had a lot of barriers to mental health support when I was around this age. And there were a few adults that were there for me, and that changed the trajectory of my life, and I want to be that person for these young people. In a school-based health center, instead of a traditional clinical setting, is that there's low barrier to care. So the access point is just so much easier. They're already at school, so a lot of our students, this is the easiest way for them to get mental health care. I do not speak Spanish, and we have a large Spanish-speaking population here at Robert Eagle staff, and there were a few kids that needed support on a mental health level, but wouldn't have been able to do sessions completely in English. So we had the idea to partner in sessions, co-lead them together, so that the kids could speak English and Spanish and the message would be getting across. All of their friends who are also Spanish speaking want to come meet with us too, because they're sharing with each other how helpful it's been to have both of us in the room together, offering support.
The students that we're seeing now, like we've seen so much growth and change, and like we feel really proud and they feel proud of themselves too. Because there's, you know, the turnaround time is like 6 weeks in King County. But here, having a school-based health clinic here, it's like almost immediate access to that care.
What is really exciting and interesting about this, if one student is absent, I can see if another student is available so they can make use of a time slot for a medical, mental health, or a dental appointment. And we're relying on those foundational relationships we've built so that we can respond more creatively and with a lot more, I think, patience and compassion to meeting people where they're at, and being directly in that space is the number one thing that allows that to happen.